Good afternoon. It's me again, Ramon. This is my second installment um, of me attempting to fulfill my purpose. This one, random yet still valuable, uh, is about assumption. I've learned over the years that it is never safe to assume. My father used to tell me, and I know other parents have repeated it time and time again, that assumption or to assume using the spelling will make an ass of you and me. Um, but I've been inclined as of lately to believe slightly differently on that. There is one thing I know, in spite of all things in regards to assumption, that is safe to assume. In spite of what assuming may cost, it is still safest to assume that God Himself is real. There is no particular level of proof outside of the Bible itself uh, that would validate that. But even in our natural senses, in regards to what's right, what's wrong, what we will and won't do, will and won't say, where we will and won't go, in regards to our own self preservation, those things come from the natural assumption that God is real. He is attempting to give you just common sense. And as I've heard before, sense, if it is not common, is not sense. And to me, based on my experiences and some of the things I've heard and learned and seen, it is safest to assume that God is real. If I am to consider the things uh, going on in our current events, as far as the deaths in the city, and not just this city, but death in general, how it transpires, the different ways people decide to take other people's lives. If we are a bit lost, we could assume that people are choosing to control time, destiny, and circumstance. But it was never in our control to begin with. This is in regards to everything. Man literally has no control over what transpires. We decide to engage in particular circumstances, but God's will has already been written out. And you can assume that you have a particular amount of power to control what is not really in your control. And that is yours to pay for. That is the wrong assumption that will cost you. But if you want to give any attention and glory to a God who deserves it, at the least you must assume that He's real. And take it upon yourself and say that God plus something else can save you. That doesn't make Him the real God that He is. Him and Him alone is all you need. I remember talking to a friend of mine a while ago in regards to our rights and our wrongs, and I remember asking him um, if the story of Christ itself, which some decide with their own regard that they won't believe, if the story says that He died, rose again on the third day with all power in His hands, with free salvation in a sense to offer to us, then what possibly, if He died for everything we would do wrong, what possibly is Judgment Day for? And he got kind of stifled a bit about that question. And based on what I've read and some common sense, um, if we have already been freed or saved from the things that we will do wrong, have done wrong, and are doing wrong right now, then judgment must be for the things that we are not doing right, because He already died for our sins. So consider that your wrongs are not even being looked at anymore. He now wants to know, what are you going to do right? What will you do for me that you've already decided you're going to do for yourself? What will you sacrifice of yourself to give to me. And then judgment starts. But once you start to understand that all of those things are a part of the assumption that God is real. And you can take it upon yourself to be self-minded, self-centered, and those type of things. Any term, including the word self, and you yourself will be the only one paying for it. So be aware of it and understand wholeheartedly, not with your whole mind, but with your whole heart, that it is safe to assume that God is real. That's actually the assumption that he's waiting for until you can get facts behind it. At least start there. That's all he really wants. And once you figure that out, you'll start to see changes that you actually want to take place in your life, not the changes that force themselves upon you. And even when the changes come that force themselves upon you, you will even find yourself prepared to change with them. And that's a good thing. In spite of everything else, as I stated before, assume that God is real. And once you figure that out, you'll even realize, and part of that assumption is knowing that I'm praying to that same God for you. You gotta know I'm praying for you. And that matters. So, if you find it within yourself to pray for me, do so. If not, God still knows your name. He knows everything about you. And he is waiting for you.